Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. The big stories tonight. As various countries race to produce a vaccine for COVID 19, our own researchers in the country are reporting significant progress with their study on virgin coconut oil for therapies to combat COVID 19. The MPRCB is drawing flack after seeking mandate to cover films and series streamed online via video subscription apps such as Netflix. But the regulatory body says they already have the support of the streaming platforms. With concerns for mental health rising in the academe, calls for higher salaries for guidance counselors in schools are renewed, stressing that keeping the students and teachers' mental health in check is harder with the pandemic. And while losing a loved one is even harder in the middle of this health crisis, an artist has thought of a way to comfort those left behind with the help of clothes owned by the departed. We begin tonight with recent developments on clinical trials by local experts on virgin coconut oil as possible treatment for COVID 19 patients. The Department of Science and Technology has announced that the results are looking good in the initial development of the trials. Meanwhile, the country's pending clinical trial for Japan's anti-flu drug Avigan is eyed to start this month. Greg Gregorio with the details.
Things are looking promising so far in the ongoing clinical trials for virgin coconut oil as a possible treatment for COVID-19. Science and Technology Secretary Fortunato de la Peña reported that 30 out of 40 volunteers in Santa Rosa, Laguna were already sent home after recovering from the illness. According to DOST's Philippine Council for Health Research and Development Executive Director Dr. Jaime Montoya, none of the volunteers who were either mild or suspect cases of COVID-19 have complaints after using VCO so far. While this is good news, Montoya clarified that this is still an initial development. They are hoping to see more promising results on the initial analysis, which could be released next month. The clinical trial for VCO in Laguna is expected to be finished by December. Another VCO trial at the Philippine General Hospital is aimed to finish by May 2021. VCO has been proven safe and has been approved as a food supplement by the Food and Drug Administration. Now, experts are studying if VCO's anti-inflammatory, antiviral, and known effect on immune response can help in treating COVID-19 symptoms.
We have a lot of VCO. It's an industry, in fact, in the Philippines. And it's readily available, it's safe, it's affordable. So if it is proven to be useful for patients with COVID-19, it will have a big effect on all of us to help us cope with the disease.
Meanwhile, our own pending clinical trial for the use of Japan's anti-flu drug Avigan as possible COVID-19 treatment is eyed to start within the month. Recall that it has faced a couple of delays due to documentary requirements.
Every time that we do a clinical trial, meron ho dapat na database para ipapasok lahat ng participants with all their details and also the monitoring of the effects of this medicine dun po sa ating mga pasyente. So inaayos na po and by Monday ready na po itong database na to and hopefully the other documents are already ready as well.
Meanwhile, the country's vaccine expert panel raised questions to the Russian scientists regarding the documents of its phase 1 and 2 clinical trials for Sputnik V vaccine.
So again, we have to expect the response from the Russian scientists. Kung mabilis sila sumagot, yes, by next week siguro, we can have some definite recommendations coming from the vaccine expert panel.
The Office of the President, together with the Health and Foreign Affairs Departments, had met with the Russian embassy earlier today regarding the Russian-made vaccine candidate. The DOH has also met with the representatives of Pfizer early this afternoon regarding their own possible vaccine. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said details of the said meetings will be discussed on Monday.
Actually, it's complementary, Kasi kung halimbawa ang Pfizer can offer us this much and then the Russian government can offer us this certain percentage of those vaccines and then the other manufacturers can offer us, baka sakasakaling tumaas yung pwede natin mabigyan na members ng population natin with this COVID-19 vaccine eventually.
As of today, the country has recorded over 232,000 COVID 19 cases, 67,000 of which are active cases. More than 160,000 recovered, while 3,700 died from the illness. Meanwhile, global cases of COVID 19 has breached the 26 million mark. That's according to data from the Johns Hopkins University. The US still has the most number of infections, followed by Brazil and India. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
As Filipino nurses protest a ban on the deployment of healthcare workers, research rather by Malaysia-based e-commerce firm iPrice Group notes the Philippines offers the lowest salaries for nurses in the region. In the study, registered and experienced Filipino nurses earn around 40,000 pesos per month. Closest to this amount is that from Vietnam, with nurses there earning more than 20,000 pesos more. The study shows Singapore giving the highest compensation for its nurses in Southeast Asia, over 200,000 pesos. The study also compared the salaries of medical technologists in the region and also found the Philippines lagging, providing medtech professionals barely 30,000 pesos a month. This comes as government tries to beef up manpower amid the pandemic. A 10,000 peso monthly hazard pay for health workers is also being pushed under the proposed Bayanihan 2 Act. The Department of Education has set a recommended screen time for students as the education system shifts to blended learning amid the pandemic. The recommended screen time are based on guidelines set by the World Health Organization and the American Academy of Pediatrics. In a memorandum, the DepEd said kindergarten students must only have maximum screen time of 1 hour per day under the distance learning method. Pupils under grades 1 to 5 should only stay in front of the screen at a maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes a day, while those from grades 6 to 8 will have an allowed screen time of up to 2 hours. Those in senior high school or from grades 9 to 12, on the other hand, may have longer screen times of up to 4 hours per day, as long as 2 hours will be spent in the morning, the other two in the afternoon. The Pasig City government, in partnership with a private firm, has launched the e-Eskwela Hub in an elementary school. The project seeks to provide desktop computers, computer tables, and printers to students of Mangahan Elementary School who could not afford to buy gadgets for online learning. 8 computers have been provided, and students can only use the computers by batches to assure social distancing. Experts and lawmakers are renewing calls for a higher salary for guidance counselors and social workers, especially as the pandemic is seen to take its toll on the mental health both of teachers and students. For some students, though, the best way to protect their mental health amid the crisis is through an academic freeze. Ria Fernandez tells us what that's about.
Students oftentimes face struggles because of poverty, poor grades, and more. And these have become more accentuated due to distance learning. At this point, the role of guidance counselors is crucial to guide them in schools. But for Cagayan de Oro Representative Rufus Rodriguez, it's not only students who need guidance counseling, especially this time.
The most vulnerable in the case of Cagayan de Oro, about 2 in recent times who committed suicide. 1 on top of the flagpole. He had his head with a rope on the flagpole in one of the elementary schools. And so it really is a matter which should now be addressed by Congress.
Rodriguez suggests to add more mental health workers in public schools. Each shall have not just 1, but 3 guidance counselors, together with 1 psychologist and 1 social worker. But for the guidance counselor post alone, it seems that public schools will be having a hard time inviting applicants. During the hearing of the House Basic Education Committee, it was learned that about 4,000 slots for guidance counselor of DepEd have remained vacant for several years. Some meanwhile decided to forego their guidance counseling career for teaching, as it is said to have more rooms for promotion. Add to these is the low salary of around 22,000 pesos that public guidance counselors receive, despite the strict requirement that they must have a master's degree.
It's ironic that guidance counselors are career specialists and mental health professionals, yet wala pong sila career.
DepEd has already asked the Budget Department to raise the pay for guidance counselors to salary grade 16 or about 35,000 pesos. But the DBM told them that it can only give up to 27,000 pesos or salary grade 13. In the meantime, while the bill is under review, lawmakers are suggesting DepEd to accept incoming master's degree holders for guidance counseling position and encourage teachers with masters in psychology to return as guidance counselors without affecting their current pay. Students, on the other hand, are continuing their rally against the start of the academic year through distance learning. On Thursday, the hashtag Academic Freeze Now landed the first spot on Twitter's trending list. Students and parents aired their grievances on Twitter, saying some pupils are not ready for online learning, not just financially, but also mentally. One user denies that students are only against online classes because they simply do not want to study. She says the call for academic freeze is mainly because of the online system not being effective for learning. Some schools have already started their academic year, while others are set to begin this month ahead of the official opening of classes on October, as set by the Education Department. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
Senator Panfilo Luxon says the way to reorganize PhilHealth is not by giving the president emergency powers, but rather to fire the agency's ex-officio chairman, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III. Luxon said the president should first try real, honest-to-goodness and political will, and he can start doing that by removing Duque from his post. Luxon added that the country will struggle jump-starting the economy if the health department is not competent in the middle of the pandemic. Earlier, Senate President Tito Soto said in an interview with One News The Chief that Duque should find a good lawyer to defend him from alleged corruption in PhilHealth. Senators have long been calling for Duque's resignation for supposedly performing poorly in preventing and controlling the pandemic in the Philippines. The President Duterte has expressed trust on Duque's leadership. The Department of Justice announces it will file a motion for reconsideration next week after the order for the early release of former U.S. Marine Joseph Scott Pemberton. This was confirmed by Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara in a statement, but he deferred to comment on Pemberton being qualified to avail of good conduct time allowance program credits, as the issue is sub judice or now under judicial review. Meanwhile, Pemberton's counsel has filed an appeal before the Olongapo Regional Trial Court, seeking to dismiss the motion to delay his early release as ordered by the court. Attorney Rowena Garcia Flores says Pemberton is qualified to avail of the GCTA program, as opposed to the contention by the camp of the family of slain trans woman Jennifer Loudon. Garcia Flores said the GCTA law does not specify any nationality for a detainee to qualify. It only requires that the offense committed does not fall under heinous crimes. Pemberton was convicted for homicide in 2014. That's not a heinous crime under our laws. The former U.S. Marine is currently detained in a special military facility in Campo Aguinaldo. He has been serving 6 out of 10 years of his sentence. The Department of Trade and Industry is reporting more than 70,000 new online sellers that have registered since the beginning of the community quarantine last March. But with the influx of online sellers comes a number of consumers being scammed with their purchases. Data from the DTI says that from around 2,500 online transaction complaints last year, as of August 31, it quadrupled to more than 12,000. Online shopping app Lazada and Shopee were called out for selling food supplements that are not FDA approved. The Optical Media Board, meanwhile, also raised concern on the selling of more than 1,600 fake computer software such as Adobe and Microsoft. For Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, a law should be passed to protect consumers from online transaction scams and ensure the legitimacy of items for sale that are posted in online platforms.
That abusive entrepreneurs can also take advantage of lack of regulation, Mr. Chair. And we don't want our country to be a hotbed of pirated DVDs, pirated movies, pirated software. In the absence of any regulation, we can be a dumping ground for all these pirated items, and obviously these pirated items violates the intellectual property rights.
Now, heads up, Quezon City and Valenzuela residents, Manila has announced rotational water service interruptions for the next 5 days. According to Manila, 4 pumps from the North Sea Annex Pumping Station got submerged due to a leak in one of their discharge lines. Affected barangays in Quezon City are Commonwealth, Bagong Silangan, Batasan Hills, Greater Fairview, Payatas, Holy Spirit, North Fairview, as well as Bagbag, Gulod, Nagkaisang Nayon, San Bartolome, Sauyo, Santa Lucia, and Talipapa. Also covered by the service interruptions is Barangay Ugong in Valenzuela. Manila does assure that they will have water tankers on standby to assist affected customers. More stories when we return after a short break. Please stay with us. Twenty. Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Officials are calling an MTRCB proposal to regulate video streaming platforms foolish and ridiculous. But the agency says their plan already has the nod of Netflix and other local players. Ria Fernandez has this story.
Pure foolishness. This was House Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano's reaction to the proposal made by the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board, or MTRCB, to regulate online streaming platforms such as Netflix. Cayetano expressed his ire earlier today during the House deliberations on the proposed 4.5 trillion peso national budget for 2021.
This foolishness that we've been reading sa internet yesterday, that MTRCB wants to regulate Netflix. Eh kung i-regulate nyo na rin ang Netflix, isama nyo na yung HBO, isama nyo na yung Amazon Prime, isama nyo na yung iFlix. Kayo na maging censors ng buong mundo. Pero saan kayo kukuha ng budget?
Cayetano said the MTRCB should instead focus their efforts in helping Filipino artists stay afloat amid the pandemic.
If you want to help and go beyond your mandate, help the industry compete, for example, with K-drama and K-wave.
MTRCB's plan also drew flack from netizens and several officials. In a tweet, Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Luxon called the intended regulation idiotic and embarrassing. He urged the agency to stop what he said was a display of ignorance. Meanwhile, Senator Grace Poe, who is a former MTRCB chairperson, pointed out the insufficient manpower of the agency to monitor all programs in cable. For her, the move is simply counterproductive and ridiculous. MTRCB Chief Rachel Arenas said they understand the public sentiment. However, she said their proposal has already received support from video streaming companies. In Radio 5's Boljak, Arenas said that as early as last year, they were able to discuss the importance of having a uniform rating system among players with Filipino subscribers.
We just want them to follow kung ano yung how the standards of our rating system. It's also to protect naman our viewers.
Arenas said they will particularly look at the graveness and frequency of scenes in the shows, but she admitted that they do not have the capacity to review all content. Arenas also assured that political and satirical programs, even if they contain criticisms against President Rodrigo Duterte, will not be censored.
It's nothing really to do with our president. I don't want people just because being attacked on some shows. It's not because of that. It's actually it depends also on how you interpret the law.
Despite this, Arenas said the proposed policy will still be subject to review involving stakeholders. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
The first tunnel boring machine to be used to construct the Metro Manila subway is finished, ready to be delivered from Japan by January 2021. The Transportation Department gave a glimpse of the tunnel boring machine through a virtual tour in its factory in Japan. It will be used to dig the subway path from Barangay Ugong in Valenzuela to NAIA Terminal 3 and FTI in Taguig. 5 more tunnel boring machines are currently being developed, with each one costing around 400 million pesos. Despite the challenges the project is facing because of COVID-19, the DOTR is still hopeful that the Metro Manila subway will have its partial operations from Valenzuela to North Avenue by December 2021. The Department of Environment is clarifying that they use crushed dolomite boulders along Manila Bay, not actual white sand, as this activity continues to draw public criticism. Speaking on One News, the Chief, DNR Undersecretary Benny Antipoda defended the activity of placing crushed boulders turned sand along the shores of Manila Bay, saying this went through due process. He said critics may contact them or file complaints if they find anything amiss with the activity.
I can understand that you're curious about it, but let's try to be positive on this matter rather than come up with a negative notion on what we're doing. Kasi it really hurts us because of this COVID pandemic. Nakikita nyo naman na talagang pinagbubutihan namin at ginagawa namin lahat ng paraan. And yet, parang negative pa yata yung ginawa namin. Huwag naman sana ganun.
But the environmental group Kalikasan PNE says dumping white sand along Manila Bay shores is actually counterproductive as it poses harmful effects to the marine wildlife in the area. The group's research coordinator, Gia Clarino, tells One News Agenda there is also no study backing the safety of putting white dolomite sand in Manila Bay.
Ang masasabi talaga namin, wala talagang benefits yung yung white sand dumping, kundi aesthetics wise lang talaga siya. Kasi we've been there, we've interviewed the coastal communities, the fisher folk. Ang gusto nilang mangyari doon ay mangroves, yung mga palaisdaan nila ay mabuhay ulit. Hindi sagot to sa so-called rehabilitation na gustong gawin ng gobyerno. Actually, it is counterproductive to the rehabilitation. It is, meron siyang pwedeng harmful effects sa environment.
The Filipino crew member of an ill-fated cargo ship off Japan's coast will be repatriated as soon as he is already in good condition after he was rescued by the Japanese Coast Guard. The Foreign Affairs Department is reporting that Eduardo Sareno is waiting for clearance of COVID-19 protocols before he is allowed to fly back home. He is currently recovering in a hospital. Sereno is one of the crew members of the missing Gulf Livestock 1. That's the vessel that capsized after facing bad weather in the waters of Japan. 38 other Filipino crew members of Gulf Livestock 1 have yet to be found. Meanwhile, the second survivor from the capsized ship has passed away. The man was found unconscious about 75 miles north-northwest of Amami Oshima Island. Authorities have yet to announce his identity and nationality. UN human rights experts are raising a red flag over China's new security law for Hong Kong, saying it oversteps on certain fundamental rights. UN experts issued a joint letter addressed to the Chinese government, saying provisions under the new law appear to undermine the independence of Hong Kong's judicial system, as well as rights to freedom of expression. The new security law allows anything China views as subversive, terroristic, or collusion to be punished with up to life imprisonment. Critics say the new law stamps out the wide-ranging freedoms promised to the city-state to the city during its return to Chinese rule in 1997 under a one-country, two-systems agreement. Typhoon Christine, with international codename Haishen, entered the Philippine area of responsibility earlier today. Pag-asa says it is not expected to make landfall. The State Weather Bureau says Christine was last spotted near the Philippine area of responsibility's northeastern boundary as of 3 p.m. Despite packing winds of up to 185 kilometers per hour, there are no areas placed under tropical cyclone wind signal since Christine is far from land. Typhoon Christine is expected to exit the Philippine area of responsibility sometime between tomorrow evening and early Sunday morning. YouTube vlogger Lloyd Cadena has passed away today at the age of 25. That's according to a statement released in his official Facebook page. He was to turn 26 this month. It is with a heavy heart and great sadness that we announce the untimely demise of our beloved brother Lloyd Cadena, the Post read. Netizens and other social media personalities sent their condolences to Cadena's family. Cadena, who started his career as a content creator in 2010, has more than 5 million subscribers on YouTube, more than 6 million followers on Facebook. The pain of losing a loved one during this pandemic seems to have doubled with the enforced health and safety protocols. But one artist from Legazpi, Albay, has found a way to help those who are grieving from one's passing through pillows. Camille Samonte explains.
Losing a loved one is
Healing from a loved one passing away isn't easy, but for artist Tito Loreto Alcala, preserving memories can help ease the pain. In his case, by turning the favorite shirt of his client's departed loved ones into pillows. In this way, the family can hug or lean on the pillow as if having the beloved beside them and still sharing good moments with them. The Celia Love Pillow project is an extension of Alcala's advocacy in caring for the elderly.
Unfortunately, most of us forget that our love for them should continue even if they are no longer around. And that's the reason why we have Celia Love Pillows.
Alcala said some families are having difficulty in giving away garments worn by their departed loved ones, but with the help of advertising agency Artist Shop, they can turn these precious garments into personalized pillows. This is also timely as many families couldn't grieve properly because of the safety measures being observed to avoid the spread of COVID-19.
Missing a loved one is not easy, but somehow Celia Love Pillows makes loving their deceased loved ones more accessible. That's precisely what Celia Love Pillow is all about.
For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
That wraps up today's big story. Catch us again on Monday, 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.